We have Mrs. Kaufman now, correct? Oh, we had her. There she is.
I'm here. Sorry.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Dr. Brunel,
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Chamberlain. I know we have Dr. Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And we have
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Mrs. Worsbicky,
Yes, I'm here.
and we have Elaine.
Yes, I'm here.
Looks like we have Mr. Chanette, but he's
Who's
not.
Who's Mr. Chanette?
Mary Ellen?
So Joe Chanette is a town meeting member, and he has attended other meetings, so I would assume he is here under citizens' comments, perhaps. Oh, okay.
Okay. Excellent. Welcome, Joe. So I didn't know if there was a specific reason. That's why I called upon you, Dr. Brunel. All right. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Auburn School Committee. Please understand that we are still working remotely as per the governor's safety recommendations, and bear with us as we proceed through this meeting. So, Dr. Brunel, I will let you start off with special recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first item is I wanted to bring to your attention that the girls' hockey team, ice hockey team, was awarded the Jack Doherty Sportsmanship Award for the 1920 season, and that came actually from the Central Mass hockey officials. So letters of congratulations were sent to each of the players and coaches, and I congratulate them on showing great sportsmanship with their peers.
That's great. Great honor. And if that's all for special recognitions, we'll move on to the superintendent's memo.
Yes. So I didn't know, Mr. Chair, if you wanted to take any citizens' comments where we have a citizen on. I don't know if Mr. Chanette had anything here.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the memo because I can't pull up the memo and the agenda at once. So, yeah, just keep me in line with that. But, yeah, Mr. Chanette, did you have anything that you wanted to share with us under citizens' comments? If you can hear us, Mr. Chanette, you could unmute your mic. There you go. Did you have a comment, Mr. Chanette? Perhaps, Dr. Brunel, you could catch up with Mr. Chanette after the meeting, unless he checks in with us somewhere along the line.
Sure, I would be happy to do so. And one thing I think may be helpful is if everyone, other than Mr. Scobie, mutes to cut down on the feedback. Yeah, it's not coming from here. So you can leave your video on. Elaine's just going into the other room. We've got feedback here. Okay. So wanted to share with you the high honor and honor roll letters, as has become our tradition. Dr. Chamberlain and I sent letters of congratulation to each of those students at the middle and high school who earned those recognitions. So obviously a tremendous hard work on their part, and just wanted to recognize their commitment to excellence. So we did provide a sample copy for you in the packet as well. I also wanted to make you aware of an ongoing collaboration, as has become our tradition. Thank you. In working with the town, really to be sure that we are working in collaboration and supporting as many as possible. So with the COVID-19 pandemic that we are all dealing with now, I wanted to make you aware that our school nurses are working with the Board of Health in doing some contact tracing for anyone who tests positive. And you may have heard on the news that really is an effort to try and flatten the curve, and to try that if people have been exposed to somebody who has tested positive, that they actually can know to stay home. So the other piece too is you may have seen the town manager Jacobson sent out a memo back on April 8th and a couple of initiatives ongoing. The first one being Our Seniors Matter. So there was a list of approximately 1,600 seniors living in Auburn and about 3,400 others for whom they did not have contact information. So a number of our team members who had time in their schedule to try and stay with keeping their hours as close to what would be normally scheduled as possible are making calls to seniors, and any issues or concerns are relayed to the senior center director. But I do want to share with you that one of our employees spoke with a senior on Friday who asked for some groceries to be picked up and to make a run to the pharmacy. And this individual, who certainly didn't need to do that, did that, really going above and beyond. But I want to thank all of the individuals who are assisting with this. It's just a great collaboration to try and support all of the Auburn community during these really challenging times. Also wanted to make you aware that Table Talk Pies has made a donation to our food service program, and I thank Mrs. King, our Director of Food Service. She is a tremendous ambassador or an advocate of the food service program and for our students. So in total, this wholesale value was $700, the value of the Table Talk Pies. So even today, over there, they were putting a Table Talk Pie as a special treat in the food packs that were being delivered for today, tomorrow, and Friday. So it is my recommendation that you accept it with gratitude, and there was a letter of thanks in the packet.
Excellent. I would entertain that motion.
Make a motion to accept with gratitude the donation of mini pies to the Auburn Meals to Go program.
I will second
Do I have a
it.
second? Any comments?
Great.
Thank you. That's a
Um,
really kind thing to do. Thank you.
Very nice. Roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway, Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Mrs.
I'm not going
Harrington?
to mute. I can't handle it.
Okay.
Mhm.
That is a vote. Thank you.
And then the next item also to do with the food service program. And again, kudos to Mrs. King for her advocacy. So she notified us through Project Bread, as noted in here, that the food service program has been awarded a grant, a COVID-19 rapid response grant in the amount of $3,950. So as you know, when we started the Meals to Go program back on, I believe it was the 18th of March, we were uncertain how long it was going to go for, and we had no idea whether there would be any reimbursement. In fact, originally there would be no reimbursement. But happy to report. Let me mute this again. Can people hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So you have to go in the next. It's something we're connecting somehow. So even because I can hear myself talking through your phone, through your thing. Okay. So I think we may be up and running, and I apologize to anybody who may be listening on this end. So it is my recommendation that you accept with gratitude the grant award in the amount of $3,950 from Project Bread, the Walk for Hunger Incorporated.
I would entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion that we accept with gratitude the amount of $3,950 from Project Bread. That's wonderful.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis?
Yes.
Dr. Kaufman? Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes. I'll be doctor. That's fine.
All right, perfect. Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington? Mrs. Harrington? Yes, we can't hear you.
I can
Okay, it is a vote. Mr.
Yeah.
Scobie, yes, it is a vote. Thank you.
Great. The next item is a donation. We were recently made aware that Michael Jarvis, the AHS boys lacrosse coach, had completed a grant application through U.S. Lacrosse. as part of their first stick program. So they have donated $3,000, a value of $3,000 in equipment that includes sticks and goggles and a full set of goalie equipment. So this is really a tremendous boost to that program, which has really taken off and continues to gain in popularity among our students. So it is my recommendation that you approve this, and sincere thanks to Mr. Jarvis for his advocacy of our program.
That's excellent. I would entertain that motion.
I make a motion to accept with gratitude the grant from U.S. Lacrosse First Stick Program for equipment for girls lacrosse team.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote.
And then an additional donation that has come through the food service program, again, as notified to me from Mrs. King. So if you'll recall, a few meetings ago, you had accepted a donation from Ms. Donna Brown. She has made another donation in the amount of $50. And Mr. and Mrs. Adam Rennis have donated $200 to be put towards defraying the cost of school lunch debt. So it is my recommendation that you accept those most generous donations.
Through the chair, the name of the donor is Donna Bacon.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did I say it wrong? Thank you.
Yes. It's
Donna
someone
Bacon.
I know, and that's really generous of her.
Thank you, Gail. So I would entertain that motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the donation from Ms. Donna Bacon in the amount of $50 and the donation from Mr. and Mrs. Adam Reines in the amount of $200 towards defraying the cost of our student lunch debt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And through the chair, I do want to apologize to Ms. Donna Bacon because I just misread her name. So thank you, Mrs. Holloway, for saying that. Just extremely generous on all three of those parts. Thank you.
Yes.
I did also, through the chair, want to let you know that Mr. Shinnett has emailed me to say that he did not have any comment and doesn't have audio on his PC. So just for you to be aware, he did reach back out.
All right. Thank you for that. And we now move on to unfinished business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So wanted to make you aware that the Board of Selectmen had set the annual town meeting to June 2nd of 2020. Obviously, this was set prior to Governor Baker's announcement that came yesterday that all schools are closed, public and private, through the rest of this academic year. So whether or not this will have implications for the town meeting remains to be seen, but I'm sure we will be hearing from Town Manager Jacobson and CFO Kazanovich soon on this very matter, and I will certainly keep you apprised.
Thank you.
The Student Opportunity Act, that was an effort by the legislature to really fund school districts, regardless of zip code, at a level that was more appropriate to be able to support the education that is required for students. And it was largely going to support, in great part, the inner cities and more urban centers. Auburn, though, as you may recall, was entitled to or was awarded $419,000, which came in the amount of Chapter 70 monies. I do want to make you aware in ongoing communications with the commissioner and others, obviously with the economic impact that this pandemic is having on our overall fiscal program, it remains to be seen whether or not those monies will actually come to fruition in this upcoming school year. But the deadline, which was originally April 1st to submit paperwork, has been extended to May 15th. And in our most recent call from the commissioner, he will continue to keep us surprised if anything changes on that, but did just want to let you know about that. Also, we have our public hearing on Monday, April 27th. That will be held via Zoom. Invitations were mailed to 112 town meeting members. Excuse me, were emailed to 112 town meeting members, and the 8 for whom we did not have email addresses were mailed a hard copy invitation to that. We will be sending a reminder to them today with the Zoom link, and also encouraging them that if they have any questions about the budget, they can submit those in advance by 3 o'clock on Friday. They certainly can call in with questions on Monday evening as well, but as we saw today, there are sometimes technical challenges that are beyond anyone's control, so hopefully people will send their questions in advance. And then with regard to the FY21 budget, in terms of budgetary concerns, of which I've just alluded, Mr. Kazanovich sent a letter dated April 16th to all department heads and myself, which I have shared, just making note of some concerns that not only our local officials have, but I think across the state there is great uncertainty in terms of the economic impact of these challenging times. So I just put you on notice about that. There will be ongoing communications between Mr. Hanfield, Mrs. Worsbicky, Dr. Chamberlain, myself, Town Manager Jacobson, and CFO Kazanovich. So as those continue, we will certainly keep you apprised. Additionally, on that same day, we received an email communication from Mr. Nathan Darrant, who is the legislative aide to Representative Frost. And he forwarded along an email, or a communication, I should say, that originated from Eileen McAnery of the Massachusetts Taxpayer Foundation. Also just putting out there some concern or warning, I would say, about, that uncertainty around the budget. So certainly, more discussions to be had. And I think what is true at this point is that there is just simply, some unknowns about the impact of this. The potential relocation of central office, we had shared that in a recent meeting, and we had not put in some of the supporting data. So included in your packet was some information regarding utility costs from our use here of Randall as compared to the police station. And as I think I said when this was first in the packet, Mr. Kazanovich had pointed out that certainly electricity-wise and perhaps even gas, that their building runs pretty much a 24/7 operation at the police department. And my understanding is the dispatch center requires considerable electrical support. It does include, for the HVAC system, any repairs, and then also there was an amount there for preventative maintenance on an annual basis, and then also the CIP, what has been spent, and also some things that have been done since 2011. So I do think, where this potential relocation is not likely to happen for 2+ years. And as I think I said last time, I really don't know what the status is of that project currently. I know that they were working extremely hard on it, and I know there's a strong commitment from them. But I also understand that with this pandemic, it has really sidetracked all of us and set other projects aside just so that we can be dealing with the here and now. So I don't have an update, but I think if I recall in those discussions, it was probably going to be at least a couple of years before that may happen. So I don't think that you have to necessarily take a vote on this today, but wanted to share it with you. And if you thought there was any other information that may prove helpful, we did have a conversation with Mr. Hanfield about it in one of our recent meetings. But if there's information that you feel would be helpful, we could certainly work to get that for you.
Sounds good.
And then wanted to let you know that the Citizens Leadership Academy There was not ample interest, so even before our current closure, so that had been canceled for this year, but it is town manager's hope that it would take place again next year. So someone will keep you apprised if that actually happens.
Okay. We'll move on to new business.
So through the chair, before going on to new business, I'm just realizing that we did not approve the minutes of the March 31st meeting, nor the April 9th meeting.
I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April 9 meeting and the March 31st meeting.
Gail Holloway will make that motion to approve the minutes of March 31st and April 9th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. Megan.
Roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mr. Scobie, yes, it is a vote. Thank you for that. And now we move on to new business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know that some of you had brought forward some concerns regarding the use of Auburn High Field, probably in particular. So I included in your packet a notification that went out from the town to everyone on their code red list back on March 30th. And in it, it announced that all town playgrounds, so all across town, playgrounds, tennis courts, and basketball courts are closed. The fields are closed for organized sports, as well as informal games and activities of 10 or more, because no field permits would be issued. However, the parks do remain open to the public with the understanding that if the public does not comply with the state orders, if we have people gathering in more than groups of 10, not keeping their social distancing at least 6 feet away from each other, that the town may reconsider or revisit that policy and potentially close the park. So I know that when this issue was brought forward to me from you just a week ago, I remember that evening, as reported, there were about 40 people, individuals on the field. And Chief Slukas did send someone down to try, a police officer down to try and have people disperse. But then I heard from some of you over the weekend that in fact, there were more and more people on the field. I did post something to our Facebook page reminding everybody of the expected guidelines, which really are in place, as I understand it, to try and flatten this curve and keep as many people safe as absolutely possible. So I bring this forward to you for your consideration and discussion about how you would like to see this handled going forward.
Okay, so I was one of the individuals who saw the Facebook post from someone reporting that there were 40 people on the fields or on the various fields, and I guess they were on each and every field. So I ended up taking a ride by a couple times after that. The same thing continued even after things were supposed to be secured, or maybe they were secured. I don't know. People remained on each and every part of the campus. They were making their own nets for tennis. They were playing tennis in the basketball courts. People were continuing to ride bikes and push strollers on the tracks. It was basically it's a field day, and the warm weather hasn't really hit yet. And I just think that there's a couple issues I have. One is oversight and upkeep of the grounds. Number two, it's not the Auburn. I don't think it's necessarily the Auburn people who are not practicing social distancing. We had a professional football team down there. There were 10 of them sitting on a bench made for 5 people. So sweating, passing along whatever other germs. They're not practicing good social distance. The concern I have with that is there you have some adults, again, an indoor pro football team. And then you have our youngsters riding their bikes around and seeing the adults who they look up to, not practicing social distancing and possibly thinking, hey, well, that's all right. Now my buddies can come down here. And I did see a lot of that, too. I saw some kids throwing footballs around and soccer balls. So there was just way too much going on for my level of comfort. I just think we're sending the wrong message out that Auburn is open for business, especially where, some of the fields in Worcester, some of the parks are closed, and they've got police monitoring the activities. And I know other high schools have completely closed things down. Shrewsbury just a couple days ago closed their fields for the same reason. So those are some of my concerns. And as far as the oversight and the upkeep, I think that's something that we're going to have to address down the road either way, because if we're leaving the track open to the residents, which I think it's great that they have a place to go. They did pay for these fields, but we're going to have to come up with a way of actually making sure that we're not riding bikes on that track and pushing strollers and doing things that are going to destroy the track. So that's my take on it. I would welcome.
Well, on Sunday, and I could tell that a few of the people were actually, locked, and there were still people on the fields who had jumped the fence to get in, and there had to have been at least 40 people. My one concern, though, with closing the fields is if we close our fields and the town doesn't close, I'm thinking of Pappas and Lemansky, are those people then going to segregate there? I just don't know about that, but I think, we have a obligation almost to do something. I don't want our schools to be the reason why this horrible virus is passing from person to person.
I agree as well. Every time I've driven by there, there's been way too many people, and frankly, no one's wearing a mask. These are adults there with their kids that are really close. Lots of organized sport, and even if we can't control what the town does, I agree. I feel like we're going to have blood on our hands if we don't, shut down what we can as quickly as we can. I was wondering too, Meg, as well, though, about the jumping over the fence. At some point, I don't know how we keep people from doing that, especially for the track at the high school, but I'm 100% all for just locking it up for now. If we can't even let our kids step foot inside our school buildings, but I think we just need to take a firmer hand, take a firmer stand to this.
Through the chair, I agree with everything that's been said. And if our fields are damaged, it costs the school department a lot of money to repair it. And it comes out of our budget, and it could take away from things we need, like books and computers. The only thing I can say, I don't know how we keep people out because they don't seem to pay attention to signs. One of the things I have noticed in other parts of other states is they close all the parking. If you can't park, you can't be there. So I don't know if there's something we can do. I mean, the schools are closed, so why should they be on our parks, our fields? That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the concern, and Dr. Brunel and I talked briefly about this, was, shutting out the residents, and that would be an unfortunate piece of this. The residents who merely want to walk the track. Unfortunately, it's not them. It's not them who are doing the damage, and it's not them that's ruining it for others. Unfortunately, I think and in many cases, it's not even Auburn folk. I got a call from a teacher / coach from Worcester, and said that he had given his kids a phone call because he saw them practicing baseball on our fields. And he said, well, what the heck are you doing? Not social distancing and on Auburn fields. So it's evidence that these are people coming from other places, coming from Worcester. And I have no problem with Worcester people. If they're going to come in and not practice social distancing and ruin it for our residents, unfortunately, I think, again, with the lack of oversight that we're going to be able to have, since there's no one on school grounds as far as personnel, I think we just need to shut it down for a while, and we can keep an eye on that. as recommendations come down from the governor and the Department of Health and play it by ear. But I think for now, that would be my recommendation. And that's shut down everything, post signs. I think Gail probably has a pretty good idea if we could block off the parking, because also the playground was being used. I mean, come on, it's getting out of hand.
Well, through the chair, I do have a question in terms of how or if we have any license to administer something like a fine. If we have repeat offenders, it's good that we were able to send although I hate to pull resources away from our police department to have them go around, but I guess, is there any sort of action that we can take if we see people continue to still try to get on there? We might not have any standing to do
I don't
that,
think so. I think that's a legal matter, and I don't think the department has the time or the patience to be dealing with that. I think by completely shutting things down, I think we actually help the police department, though, in not having to monitor as much, or when they do go there, possibly not having to go there as much.
So through the chair, I understand that the desire is to shut down everything, and I support that certainly. Just a few things that I have been thinking about around this issue. So with regard to closing off the parking, what I would want to do is to be in touch with both Chief Coleman and Chief Slucas, because they need to get access to the building should there be a fire or any type of emergency while people are in there. So I just want to make sure to bring them in on the loop. I will say I've had a few conversations with the town manager about this, some late last week, and I think their intention is to continue to monitor the situation as well. And I told her of this meeting today and that I would make her aware of the vote that the school committee takes. What I can share with you is, as of late last week, other than the entrance to the football field, all of the other fields, the gates were locked. And I was still getting notified that people, what they had done is they had simply jumped the fence on them. On one of the days, I forget if it was Friday or Saturday, there were individuals actually in the batting cage, which is always locked. So I know that Mr. Fahey double checked and Mr. Davis went down and did the same. So it is certainly a challenge, but I will work with those individuals. We have had additional signs made up to be placed around. And I know that Chief Slucas was very generous in sending someone down last Thursday evening. And through the town manager, she indicated that, they did not have the resources on staff to be down there and policing it at all times. But if they were in the area, they would certainly look and drive through. So I will communicate with everyone as need be. But I think, as you all have shared and recognized, as the weather continues to warm, we're going to need to be really vigilant, very vigilant about this, because I think likelihood it will only increase. But I certainly will do everything we can.
That's my concern, is we haven't even seen the real good outdoor let's get out and play type of weather. That's coming in the next few weeks, and I agree. We need to do our part. Are we going to be able to keep everyone out of there by putting up a couple of barriers here or there and locking all of the gates and throwing some signage up? Probably not, but we're doing all that we can, and I feel good about that.
During the day, if this was a regular school year, they wouldn't be allowed on our fields anyway, except for after, 6 o'clock at night and on weekends. So
Right.
They really shouldn't be out there anyway during the week, at least.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct. It's just additional wear and tear. But again, a bigger part of it is just the possible passing of the virus. That's what concerns me, and the message that we're sending sending to our children. So if our children are going out for a bike ride and social distancing, and then they see the adults who aren't doing it, they're going to think it's okay. How bad can it be if these people are doing it? So I'm glad that everyone's on the same page. Again, I appreciate what the residents do for us. I appreciate their continued support of our schools. Unfortunately, this is one of the times that, we're going to have to possibly, maybe hurt their feelings a bit, and hopefully we can make that up to them in some way when this is all said and done.
So through the chair, what my intention would be is to prepare an email notification that would go to our students' families to make them aware once you take this vote to close down all of the school grounds. So it wouldn't just be the high school, it's all school grounds as I understand it. And also would post that on Facebook as well and let in the other authorities know too.
Yeah, please make it known to them that this decision is not made easily, and we're concerned about more than just the virus, but also the damage that could be done to the fields, and not from Auburn residents. Let them know that that's a concern, that it's not necessarily them. However, at this point in time, with no staff available, we really can't monitor the fields, and we just want to keep them safe as well as we want to keep our residents safe. And I know you will do that. I'm just making sure that, we cover all the bases here so we don't look like the bad guys.
Sure, understood.
Do we need that in the form of a motion?
I think it would make sense to do so, yes.
I would entertain a motion to close down all Auburn fields. That includes Auburn High School campus as well as the Auburn Middle School field. Lock them up, put signage, and keep all residents off until further notice.
Through the
Anything
chair,
I should add to that?
that extends to Packagug and Bryn Mawr School and Swanton Road as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think those are going to be a little bit even more difficult to monitor. However, there's less damage and there's less chance of, I think, organized sports teams wanting to be on those fields.
I will sadly make that motion to close all school grounds.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Gail Holloway.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mr. Scobie. Yes, it is a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, just wanted to make you aware that MIT, the Mass Institute of Technology, did a report on remote learning, and a copy of that or a link to it was listed in the packet, and that Massachusetts fulfills 16 out of the 21 criteria that were outlined, ranking Massachusetts second in the nation. So the important data sets are included for your review, and do want to share with you, with Dr. Chamberlain having an update for you at our meeting on Monday evening, that additional guidance is anticipated from the Department of Ed this Friday regarding remote learning plans. So she will give you a report on Monday.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
And are we moving on to business and financial?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Good
Excellent.
afternoon, everyone. First of all, I put in your packet a year-to-date budget report dated April 21st, 2020. And please know that Dr. Burnell and I continue to monitor the FY20 budget closely, but this is basically to keep you aware of what's happening on the budget side. Transfers, I've provided you a list of transfers. All of them this time are within the same series, so it's more for informational purposes, but you can vote to accept it if you'd like. But They all are within the same series. So, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any on either.
I would entertain a motion to approve those transfers.
I'll make a motion, Gail Holloway, to approve those transfers between the series as presented by the business manager.
Do I have a second? I have a second. Roll call vote, Dr. McCrillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington,
Yes.
Mr. Scobie, yes, it is a vote.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to do is bring your attention again to the bus applications. They're due on June 1st of 2020. Up to this point, we've received 429 applications. We need to receive them by June 1st with a postmark of June 1st or prior to that. We have a ways to go. I would say we have at least another 1,100 applications to receive. So any chance you get to pass that message along, I know Dr. Brunel is sending weekly reminders to families in her emails, and I believe the schools are as well. So, but if there's anything you can do on your end to pass that word along to make sure people get their applications in by June 1st to avoid the late fee. So,
Question?
sure.
Can they still bring it to the main office, or is it only acceptable by mail now? Is the main office even open?
Dr. Brunel, do you want to speak to that, or?
Yes, so through the chair, we are not open to the public. We have made some accommodations to distribute some iPads that may have been needed, but we would ask that families mail those into us. And I've just made a note in the next communication, reminding people of the online payment option that they can use, and then can simply mail or scan us a copy of the completed bus application. So we'll make sure that word gets out to everybody on how they can do it alternatively.
Okay, and thank you. That's the end of my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry for the lame introduction.
Mhm.
So, is that all we have for regular business?
That is, Mr. Chair, yes.
And we do need an executive session.
We do, please, yes.
I would
the agenda.
entertain that motion.
Gail Holloway will make that motion per Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A2, to conduct strategies for negotiations with union and non-union personnel, and per Chapter 30, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation. So, executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, Dr. McCrillis?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
And Mr. Scobie, yes. It is a vote. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'll see some of you at executive session.